Distillery. This property initially was settled 1742 by Matthew Dill. And so Matthew Dill was a Scots-Irish immigrant. He came over in 1731. He immigrated from northwestern part of Ireland, Donegal, Ireland, if you're familiar with Ireland. Anyway, the northwest corner. And came over looking for freedom, liberty, religious liberty, and also land. So when he came over, he lived initially by Philadelphia, and then he was able to purchase his property from William Penn. In 1742, he got like 500 acres. And so where we're standing was a little bit north, south, and then west up into the mountains. And so he settled it, and he said that this looked like a good spot because there's a gap in the mountains. It's going up north, towards Carlisle. And then also York was already established, so this is kind of a halfway point. So, it's like, this is a good place to build a farm, and he started a way station where people could stop as they were traveling. We aren't sure that he actually had a tavern at that point in time. This was pretty much still wilderness in the early 1740s. Officially you couldn't settle west of the Susquehanna until 1739. So this was all Indian territory. The main tribe that was here was the Lenape, who became the Delaware. And so anyway, he was here, he settled here, he had 8 kids. And Matthew Dill then died in 1750. He willed the property, he split up his property. The property was split up between his sons. James Dill, the eldest son, got this property that we're standing on. So at that point it was a couple hundred acres that he got. And James Dill was prosperous, so they were farmers. He did open up a tavern. He actually got a tavern license. We knew he was doing some distilling, and so he was doing pretty good. And then he willed it to, or he deeded it then to his youngest son, John Dill. John Dill's the one that built the tavern. That tavern was built in 1794. So there I'm sitting in the bar. So his son, John, then built that tavern. So he must have been doing pretty good. Both running a tavern, farming, and doing some distilling. And then, in the meantime, this area was pretty well settled by Germans and Irish, Scots-Irish. The reason we say Scots-Irish is they're kind of a different breed from the Irish. Because they actually came over from Scotland. And they were in between Scotland and England, and they kind of got booted out of there. Ireland kind of had some trouble there. So they were all looking for property, just like a lot of people do today. Anyway, in 1800, John Dill sold it to Leonard Eichelberger, who was a German descendant. His father immigrated here in the mid-1700s, and
well, the bartender was
Leonard was actually born here. Four of his siblings were born in Germany. He was born here with 3 of his other siblings.
We'll give you 1 ounce, get my friend 1 ounce.
Murray's our tavern keeper.
How you doing?
I'm James, by the way.
How you doing, James?
Good. I keep forgetting my
You know what I was drinking last
name tag. But
But
anyway, so Leonard Eichelberger got it. It was the Eichelbergers that actually really upped the distilling business. It was actually Leonard Eichelberger's sons, Frederick and John. Leonard Eichelberger died around 1811.
We did a tasting
Went to
for
his
some of
sons,
those guys that develop software.
and he ran it for. They ran it for quite a while, until the 1830s, but for a while they were doing about, for a couple of years they're doing between 9 and 10,000 gallons of whiskey a year. So, which is a lot. Because you figure back then, everything was manual.
He said you guys, he came out and looked at
Manually
my
plant
bag, they said it came out.
your grain, you had to manually
The
harvest
granite
it.
one is 6
You
times
had to
more than
manually
yours.
crash it, you had
And it's
to,
leather, it goes out
you know, make your stills, we'll look at the stills here in a little
Money
bit.
for it.
But then we built this.
Did you
It
change your
is these
hats?
bottles. I think
Yeah.
don't worry, I'll pay the difference. Because the only thing that I've liked so far that I just,
I
at
get
first
lunch?
sight, I said,
Lunch.
that's
No.
what I want. Have you ever done that? Where you're like,
Do you want
that's what I
lunch?
want. I don't care what else goes on, that's what I want.
Thanks.
So, yeah, that's what we got.
Help yourself.
It was a little bit more expensive, but
A little bit more.
just a little
He
bit.
said 6 times more.
Before I was interrupted. So they're doing around 9 to 10,000, which is a lot. So and they became good distillers. Frederick Eichelberger, that's who we named then this distillery after. This distillery we purpose built for the plantation here. And it's based on a 1800 style. And we actually, our stills are all wood fired. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the other side. I want to, if you have any questions, just let me know. So let's put this up here. Distilling's been around for a long time. I don't know if how much you know about that. A little bit, or?
A little bit.
Okay, so anyway, distilling's been around for 3,000-4,000 years at least. That's what's been documented anyway. So China, Egypt, the Middle East areas, and over the years, distilling is, every culture has some type of distilling. This is just lithographs of different areas, like you have England, you have I believe that's Tibet. You have like Tahiti, Peru. This is Peru. You have Ireland and Scotland. And we know that in around 300 AD, it was documented that some lady named Marie the Jewess was, she actually invented the Alembic still. Hi. Marie the Jewess invented what we call the Alembic still, which is kind of the still that we think of today. Kind of like a pot still. You can see all these are like some type of pot, but we used to have a picture of one. Everything gets moved around. But basically it's a pot. You'll see it on the other side. It has a head, so the vapors will go out, they go down an arm, go through a condenser, cool off, and get your liquid from that. She invented that, and she also invented something called the bain-marie, which is your double boiler. So back then, the Arabs were pretty well ahead of, they managed science. They were very scientific, and what they did, they used distilling not for alcohol really, they used it to make medicines, they used it to make cosmetics, and also the Moors, when they were going around invading countries and things, they had a navy. Well, in order to have a navy, you have to have water to drink. So what they did was they would distill water.
Oh, very good.
And all the cherry bounces in the other room, correct?
One's for my mom, one's for me.
That's the idea.
So
Buy one for you, get one for mom, get a free
they would
glass.
distill the seawater,
Right.
so they would have fresh
You got
water.
125
Because you can only carry so much water, but you need obviously water to distill over here. You need water to survive. So they used it for that, and then what happened is that the monks, when they kind of invaded Southern Europe, the monks were there, they were making wine. And they saw what the Moors were doing and said, gives me an idea, why don't we burn our wine? So what they did is we would call it burnt wine, and what we call it today is brandy. So brandy comes from fruit.
Okay.
So they had wine, so they would make fruit or make
We
fruit out
gotta,
of
for
it.
some reason, you gotta put.
And then the northern monks came down and saw what they were doing and said, that's interesting, but you know what? We don't have wine up north like in Scotland.
I know, I see it.
England, they got, got some grain there. And they said, well, what we have is beer. And they said, why don't we burn our beer? So they did. And they became Uske Bethea, water of life. And whiskey is what we call it today. So Uske became anglicized, eventually became what we call whiskey. And so they started distilling it and making whiskey from the beer. So beer is kind of the first step in making whiskey. If you're not familiar with it.
Underneath.
But whiskey is pretty, pretty basic. It's really 3 ingredients. You have grains, you have water, and you have meat. So, but it's the combination of those, how you cook it, your water source, the type of grain, where the grain's growing, you get your different flavors, how long you store it, how long you cook it. So,
James, I'm gonna need you to do this then.
well, I have to finish up his board.
Okay.
Then I'll do that.
Greg, you can do it. You can run around.
You're gonna pay.
I don't know how to have the,
All right, who wanted them out?
Well, I can pay for that.
It's kind of crazy right now. What
He's
I want
on
to say is that whiskey is pretty basic, what I said, those main ingredients. What this shows is, this is from 1783, I believe. And it's the population of what York County became a county in 1749. But in 1783, this was called Monaghan Township,
All right.
which is
And you wanted the drink.
I am, but I'm gonna get a bottle before they sell it.
right here.
What drink do you want?
You can see there's 179 people in the township. And the interesting part about this is at the time, there was 220 stills, taxable stills in York County. The next closest thing was 72, which was sawmills. And then grist mills, for milling your grain and stuff. So you can see that people like whiskey. But the reason was is that not just that they like to drink it, but it was a very profitable way to utilize your grain, because you couldn't utilize all your grain to make flour. So the farms were pretty good size, several hundred acres. So you would make whiskey. And that was transportable then, because it didn't spoil. But you could see that a lot of stills at that time.
Wow.
Sorry. This is a distillery based on that. These are the stills based on the tax records. You see over here is kind of the German influence. You see a lot in Manchester and Dover. Over here is where we're at. This is Dills Gap, it was called. And this is more the Scots-Irish. But then up in this area, which is part of the county, although there's nothing there, this is where the Quakers lived. They drank, but they didn't distill. But you can see there's between the Scots-Irish and the Germans, they were good distillers. They had a lot, and there was a lot more stills than that, but these were the
I don't know what
taxable
it is,
ones.
he's what it is.
Most farms had some type of still, so they could use up their grains. So this is all from the tax records from York County. So it's not something that's just made up. It's actually, if you look at the tax records. The other thing. So this is like a still here.
Appreciate you.
This actually is a still. This is made for making essential oils, but it's the same process. You heat up whatever you want in here comes up, and the vapors come up into the head. The vapors, and we'll go through this side. Then in here would be the coils. Run cool water through here, inlet, outlet, and then you get your condensed vapors out here. So whether you're making whiskey, distilling water,
Could you make moonshine in that too, or was that a different type of
It's
stuff?
not very, you wouldn't get very much out of it.
I mean,
Yeah, you could. I mean, this is actually an essential still, essential oil still. So it does work, but it's not really big enough to make whiskey. Because you need quite a bit of brand. You'll see our stills next door. The other thing is, you want to come over this one. Look at this wall.
Oh, you do? Well, okay. I'm not sure what's
This
happening.
area
We're causing
is known for
This is
the
where the
orchards.
tasting sit, right?
So
Okay.
there's orchards,
These are
you
your
know, we
12
have
o'clock.
peaches,
Okay.
pears,
I'm not here
apples,
for tasting, I'm here for
cherries.
Mother's Day special.
I heard several people want like cherry bounce.
Yeah.
That's what this is a picture of. This fella here, he was about 14 at the time. He drew this later in life, but he remembered working with Colonel George Spangler making cherry bounce. So what's cherry bounce? It was one of the favorites of George Washington. He likes sweet drinks, Madeira, cherry bounce, claret. Claret's kind of like a port. But what you do is you take sour cherries and you extract the juice from them, and then you infuse your whiskey with that. And you put in spices. People say it tastes like Christmas, so you use cinnamon, cloves, and so it's a sweet drink. And when you smell it, it's like it's Christmassy. But it was a very popular drink, and it takes probably to make about maybe 5 or 6 gallons. It takes several hundred pounds of cherries. And then we know that at one time with the ledgers we have from we know that there was a doctor that came through, Dr. George Wilson. This was his page out of the journal. And it was September it was October 1st, October 4th actually. We know he got a jill of peach brandy. Peach brandy was a little more expensive because the labor it takes to make it, and peaches are only available a couple weeks a year. So a jill is a unit of measure. It's a G-I-L-L. If you saw it reading, you'd probably say jill, but
You're gonna have to spin it up a little bit.
well.
We got,
So this is 4 ounces. So he ordered one of these, and then he did a DO. It's like duo. That means give me another. And he had 6 more times this one night. So basically he had six of these in one night. So if you like this peach brandy, let's go next door. The fireplace. Those doors. The reason this is such a big fireplace is because our stills are wood fired.
okay.
And those doors is how we fire the stills. So we put the wood in from this side. So so these are stills, but first these things here are boilers. So what you have, distilling takes a lot of water. So we have to heat it up in these. These are 130 gallons each. Again, the fire is outside. And we heat up the water, so you need it for making your mash. Which the mash is the first part of distilling process. This is a mash. So what you would do is this is what we eventually will heat up. This doesn't have the yeast in it yet, so we use the hot water and mix it with your grain. You heat it up. It heats up. It soaks the grain in. The grain, when it's dry, it's all starch, and then you have to turn it into sugars. That's what the yeast eats. That's the fermentation. So once you ferment it, which takes about 4 days, we'll take it and we'll put it in our first still. The big still there. That's a 70-gallon still, and so we'll dump that in there. Fire it from the other side. It takes a couple hours to get it up to temperature. And once it's up to temperature, we'll put the top there. It's called the head. This here.
What would you like?
It's called the head. And then you seal it with dry paste because you want all the vapors trapped. So then, same thing we saw at the little one. The vapors will come up into here, and then they'll run down this line arm. It's called the line arm. Come through here, and there's a coil in here, and then we'll have water running through it. And then the condensed product will come out here. That's called the stripping run. That's the first run. That's about 25% alcohol when you're done. I'm almost done, Murray. Once you're done with that, we'll take, we'll run maybe 30 or 40 gallons in there, and out of that we might get about 3 gallons that we can actually distill. We'll take that, we'll put it in this little one, which is the same as that, except it's a smaller, it's only 10 gallons. We'll put it in here. Now, that's not direct heating. This isn't directly fired, because if you directly fired it, you would burn the mash. You don't want to burn that because you ruin it, and it's hard to clean out. So, once it's in here, it's just liquid, so we can have a direct fire or anything. And this little guy's the spirit still. It's the same process, except out of here is where you get the alcohol that you're going to drink. You get 4 pieces out of it. You get the 4 shots, heads, hearts, and tails. The 4 shots is like the methanol that you throw away. The heads is like the acetone. That's the first part. It's not, you don't want to drink that, but we save it because we can rerun it. Then you get the hearts. The hearts is what you drink. And what's coming out of here, it'll be about 140 proof, which is 70% alcohol. We don't bottle it there. You bottle it at 100 proof, but it's pretty concentrated alcohol. But it tastes good. It's sweet. And, we make a rye, so it's a little peppery. And then same thing. It's got the coil there. When the water come out, we store it in jars, and then when we get enough to fill up a 15-gallon barrel, we actually put it in. Once we get enough, then we'll barrel it. We don't age it very long. Pretty much what we sell or what we taste is called wagon age. So what they would do is they would take it and they would ship it down to Baltimore. It took about 8 days. So what we have, we call that wagon age because it doesn't have the color. The color comes from the barrels. So yeah, that's like that, but that's just for water. But anyway, so you use old barrels, you char them, and that helps. One, it helps filter the product. It starts giving it the vanilla type flavor. It takes out some of the impurities. It's like a charcoal filter, so it goes into the wood, comes out of the wood. And then what we'll do is we store that. We store it upstairs. This still we call Mary. Mary was Matthew Dills' wife. When he died, he left the property to his sons, like I said, but he also left the still to his wife, Mary. That's what it said in the will. And this one we call Catherine. Catherine was the youngest daughter of Leonard Eichelberger, and she ended up, unfortunately, dying in an accident when she was 15. So we call this one Catherine.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Absolutely. How can I help you?
That's it. So it's all wood fired. There's no flames in this room. This is the vapor room. So all the flames are done from the outside. You know, you saw the fireplace where we'll feed the fires in here. And outside there's some doors where we'll feed the fires for these guys. So it's still a lot of manual work for us. So the grain, yeah, we get it from farmers and things like that, but it's
We need this right here.
Okay, that's perfect.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
I think that's about it. And then we'll bottle it after several, 8 days, 10 days, whatever we have enough for to bottle it. We're trying to age some now, but we'll be ready probably for Farmers Fair. So that's about it.
Okay.
Any
Thank you very much.
questions?
No, you explained everything very well.
Okay, good. Well, come back sometime. It's not so
So this concludes the Eichelberger Distillery tour. I hope you enjoyed learning as much as we could. Unfortunately, there were a whole bunch of other people coming here for the tasting,